Thank you very much, Andrea. Very good morning to all of you from my side. I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you very much for the invitation. And yeah, the screen has some disadvantages, but as John has said, sometimes also the advantage that more people can follow these kind of events. Unfortunately, I don't have this very elegant remote thing that John had for his presentation, so I have the obligation to sometimes ask for the next slide during the short presentation and speech that I will do in the next minutes. I mean, John has already outlined, I think, very well the vision and the potential behind the new European Bauhaus, and I will now try to add in a way some flesh to the bones and also to explore a bit what could be concrete possibilities for you to get active in the project. As Andrea had said, I have the pleasure to coordinate the project for Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and it's really a joy, and this is also true for the President, to see the project growing every day. And there we can go to the next slide, because there is really an Can I have my next slide, please? Thank you. There is really an overwhelming interest, I mean, also from your side today. And this shows, in a way, how badly this project is needed now, and especially also at this very moment in the middle of the pandemic. Because indeed, we get, despite all these positive reactions that you can see on the slide, also quite some critical voices that ask why this project now, in the middle of a pandemic, where there are really more pressing issues to deal with. Well, and there we can go to the next slide. It's actually for two reasons. The first one is that the new European Bauhaus is a project of hope. And we all need, especially now, projects with a perspective for the future that make us dream and that touch our emotion and stimulate creativity. This is what the new European Bauhaus is about. And this is why it's such an important project in these times of the pandemic. Second, it's also a project of recovery. And you all know how important it is to have a recovery that opens opportunities for our companies and societies. We want to make our companies fit for the future, including the digital challenges. And we want to make our companies frontrunners for the green transition on a global level. The New European Bauhaus aims to amplify good examples, expertise, and ideas, to bring them to the market and to help them disseminate. The Bauhaus can become a huge enabler for all those who want to shape the sustainable living of tomorrow. And I'm sure you can find a lot of these good examples in the virtual room this morning. So before coming to your role, let me develop a bit further the three basics of the new European Bauhaus. Next slide, please. So first, and this is very important to President von der Leyen, the new European Bauhaus brings a cultural dimension to the European Green Deal. And there I would like to refer to a quote of one of the funders of our community, to Robert Schuman, who wrote already in 1954 a text that you can see on the next slide, where he said, Europe, it's essential to work on the economic recovery, to guarantee military security and to organize us politically. But what would all these efforts be worth if we were not able to build at the same time solid and deep cultural relations between the European countries? That's how we form the European spirit, and all the rest will follow. As much as Schuman had understood back in the 50s that politics are not enough to create a European spirit, we have to understand today that the European Green Deal can only succeed if we add an additional layer on top of economics and technology. We need to make the Green Deal a tangible experience that people can touch, and that is not only about reasonable decisions, but also about emotions. We can go to the previous slide, please. So second, it's the interdisciplinarity. John has already touched upon it at the end of his presentation, and it's really key that the European Bauhaus wants to bring together people from different backgrounds and professions. architects, designers, students, entrepreneurs, scientists, citizens. Because only if culture and technology go hand in hand, only if innovation and creativity join forces, we can make the green transition a success. And third, and John has mentioned it already, the historical Bauhaus had the slogan, form follows function. And with the European Bauhaus, we want to develop this a bit further in the sense to say, form follows planet. And from there, we have developed this guiding star for the project, which is this triangle that is formed of sustainability, inclusion and affordability, and style or aesthetics. Because we want to show that sustainability can be beautiful and also affordable. It doesn't make sense to just create lighthouse projects that are super nice to look at and where a happy few can live in, but we really have to make sure that we can disseminate the innovation and technology on a very broad basis. So now let me come back to your role, which is actually crucial for the project. You have heard President von der Leyen at the beginning of this event. And I would just like to tell the story behind the short extract from her speech that you have heard at the beginning of the event, which was actually when we were preparing the State of the Union and this idea to build in wood came up. And in the beginning, the president was rather reluctant because she also thought, well, if we use all this wood, then we might destroy our forests. And can we actually build the same buildings and high and tall buildings, for example, in wood? And then we had a very lively discussion in the cabinet where in the end, indeed, the president became a huge fan of construction in wood. And this is also, of course, a very important part of the European Bauhaus project. And John has explained so well already all the benefits behind constructions in wood. In summary, it's just, as he said, well, let's turn our cities into urban forests and let's make sure that our buildings do not produce but capture CO2. You have the technologies to make it happen. The European Bauhaus is about nature-based materials and circularity, and of course it's also about renovation. Also there, that has been touched upon already. And you see, for example, with the Pritzker Prize of this year, that for the very first time in 46 years of history has been given for refurbishment of buildings, not new construction. So you also see that in architecture, there is a kind of understanding and change a narrative that actually renovation can be as valuable and beautiful than new constructions. The Bauhaus is about reconciling our life with nature and first of all in the built environment. And we count on you to make this happen. But we also want to explore with you what you need to be able to make it happen. So to make this more concrete, and indeed the word concrete is becoming more and more an issue when we talk about the European Bauhaus, but in some occasions I have not found a better word, so I still use it from time to time. Where are we with the project and how can you engage? So you might have heard about it. This is not the usual commission process, but a clear bottom-up approach. We have no final concept yet, and we feel comfortable with it because the basics are there, the vision is there, but we now have to fill the vision with life. And that's where we are now in the middle of the design phase. And I completely forgot my slides, but I think we can now go to the next one. Well, this is actually, that was the illustration to show that we have to change our attitude towards nature and we should not place the human being on top, but in the middle of the whole ecosystem. So please go to the next slide. Voila. So that's where we are at the moment in the timeline of the project, in the middle of the design phase. So what is this design phase? It's really that we invite everyone to contribute to the concept of the European Bauhaus. We want to shape the concept together, also together with you. And the easiest way is via the European Bauhaus website. Next slide, please. So on the website, you have 3 different entry points that you see here as well. You can either contribute with inspiring examples, so products or projects that exist already in the real world and that can be an inspiration for the European Bauhaus. because we are, of course, very well aware that a lot of things exist already that just needs to be amplified, as I said before. You can contribute ideas and visions, so things that don't exist yet, but you think that they should be part of the New European Bauhaus project. But then it's also about challenges and needs, so things that you see that are not working well at the moment and that should be addressed via the New European Bauhaus. And a lot of people have already contributed. The team has started to look into it and to make sense out of the contributions. And on the next slide, you can see a bit the first challenges that have been mentioned the most until now. And there you see that there are a lot of challenges that are also connected with your work and also with what John has just said before. So we will be working in the next month until summer to refine further and work out the concept. And two groups of people will help us there, especially. And the first one is the so-called high-level round table of the New European Bauhaus that you can see on the next slide, and where John is also part of it. And this is a group of 18 members that have been selected really for their personal capacity. And this is the nice to look at slide. And the next slide is the slide with all the information of the people who are part of the high-level round table. So you see it's a very diverse group, and everybody brings to the table experience that is important for one or even several areas of the New European Bauhaus. And the second group, which is important for the definition of the concept of the New European Bauhaus, are our official partners. And on the next slide, you can see a very first impression of these official partners of the New European Bauhaus. We are now at the moment at around 70, and it grows every week. It's a call that is open on the website of the New European Bauhaus all the time. And this group is actually a group of organizations, networks, non-profit organizations that engaged in the project, that are ready to do something, to organize conversations, to do events, etc., and that we will use also for our feedback loops that we will have when it comes to the shaping of the concept. And in addition to those two groups, of course, we have these conversations like today, events that we discuss, that we organize, that others organize. And so please make also sure that we really get your input from this conference, because this is your chance to shape the concept of the New European Bauhaus. Another very important point in the design phase will be our first big conference on the New European Bauhaus. You can go to the next slide, please. That will take place on the 22nd and 23rd of April. You there have the link where you can register for the conference. We really have an impressive alignment of brilliant speakers. John will be there, of course, as well. President von der Leyen, the President of the European Parliament, a lot of MEPs, but also members from the high-level roundtable, Bjarke Ingels, Olaf Eliasson, Michael Bloomberg will be there. So it will be really two interesting days, and you are all very warmly invited to register. We have already over 1,000 people who did so. Last but not least, the New European Bauhaus is, of course, also about money and funding. This year, we will have two first opportunities for that. The first one will be the New European Bauhaus Prize that we will announce on the 23rd of April. This will be a prize that will have 10 categories that will also cover a lot of areas where you are active in. So going from renovation to the regeneration of areas, be it in the rural areas or in the cities, in a sustainable and inclusive way, cultural heritage, education, you name it. So all the details will be known on the 23rd of April, and then you can apply. I think it will be a month more or less for these prizes, and we will also have a special prize for people under 30 that can send their ideas. And the second opportunity, and we can, I think, go to the next slide, by the way, will be the first calls for proposal. in September, where we will open the calls for proposals for the first 5 pilot projects in different European member states. And there, the concept will be that via the European Bauhaus, we will provide seed funding for these projects, and then the member states will be invited to combine those with money from the structural and regional funds, and to really finance projects of deep transformation in the member states. So there, more details will be known by September. So let me end on a bit more poetic note, while you can see on the next slide all the different ways to get information on the European Bauhaus. As I said, we have this high-level roundtable in place now. We had the first meeting with the president and the members of the high-level roundtable last week. And I had a very interesting moment for myself, because, as Andrea said in the beginning, I'm a trained journalist. And when you study journalism, one of the very first things that you learn at university is that you should never use acronyms, because people don't know what they stand for, and they don't understand them. Well, I must say that one of the members of the roundtable, Alexandra Mitsutaki, changed my mind at least a bit for the European Bauhaus, where the acronym is obviously NEB, which doesn't mean anything, but where she developed that the NEB can not only stand for European Bauhaus, but it can also stand for a new European beginning, or a new European building, or a new earth building. So this is all about creativity and innovation. I'm sure that there is a lot of these 2 ingredients in this virtual room. And I can only say that the European Bauhaus needs you, and we count on you. Thank you very much for your attention, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Ruth. I'm happy to hear the opportunities that are coming, and especially I am happy that there is encouragement of young people to be active, and that you are going to be awarding even their ideas. But maybe the first question would be, it's like, when you're following who is part of your maybe are the younger generations more aware of the need for the change than older ones?
Well, I mean, you have a good example for an older person, and at the other side of the screen with John, who is very much aware that we need to change certain things. So I would not like to go into this generational talk so much. But indeed, I mean, what we see is that this is a project that gets a lot of interest in the younger generation. I think that indeed a lot of the young people, I mean, we see that with the Fridays for Future movement, really are aware that things have to change drastically. We also have a young climate activist from Norway, Gina Glover, in our high-level roundtable, and it's amazing to listen to her and to see with how much energy she fights for protecting our planet. But I also think that there is a second aspect of the project, which is that we don't want to go only for sustainability in the very strict sense of the term, but we want to combine it with style and beauty. And I think that this is also something that especially young people really like in this project. The sustainability is not only about all the things that we are not allowed to do anymore, or where we have to change our habits. Of course, this is also part of the deal, but we can also look at it under this new angle, which is actually very appealing, especially also to the younger generation.
Thank you.
Maybe I could add something to that, because Ruth is absolutely right. I mean, what you now see is, I mean, in particular, young people, they are, of course, passionate and idealistic, and we go for sustainability. We have the Fridays for Future, as has been just mentioned, Ruth. But for the first time, I think this new European Bauhaus idea is not only about sustainability and justice. Young people are very passionate about justice, but for the first time, you have included style, beauty, arts, things like that. It's a unique mix, actually. Yeah? And I think we can win the hearts and the minds of the young generation with that.
Yeah, thank you. So then maybe a bit, since we are always like targeting and searching for the opportunities, you were mentioning, Ruth, the funding opportunities, and that's how it's going to be needed to be combining them with the structural funds. But is there also a possibility to connect the existing R&E funding programs to the European Bauhaus or Horizon Europe, for example?
Yeah, this is exactly what we are looking into at the moment. So the two options that I was mentioning already are these who are already now very well developed and will come in the upcoming month. But there will be already this year additional calls, for example, via the LIFE program, that will look, for example, more into the circularity in the built environment, that will be linked to the European Bauhaus. Also, the European Institute of Technology will have a number of calls already this year, also linked to the European Bauhaus, but they are still under construction. And then from next year onwards, there will be a lot more coming where we indeed, and this is really something that is very important for us to look as much as possible for synergies and possibilities to combine the different tools that they have in the European budget. Because, I mean, the renovation wave has been mentioned already, but there are other initiatives. For example, the upcoming industry strategy will have this idea of ecosystems, where we will have a construction ecosystem, we will have the affordable housing initiative. So there are a lot of initiatives also in our own building already inside the Commission, and we put up a working structure around the core team of the Bauhaus that includes a lot of DGs, different services from the Commission that are working on different other projects, initiatives, and also funding opportunities that have relation to the European Bauhaus. So what the idea is not so much to create a lot of new programs, but more look into the current projects, as you just said. To give you another example, Erasmus, for example, of course, we will not take the few money that Erasmus has away from the program and put it into the Bauhaus, but we have they look now into, okay, maybe we can integrate some of the European Bauhaus principles in there and also then support innovation within the Erasmus program in this area. So this is what we are currently looking at. And this year we will have some first steps there, and we aim to be much more holistic in a way from next year onwards.
Thank you. Maybe also a question to both of you. So we are aiming to do the change in Europe, but in order to change our planet to the better world, I guess we need to also have a vision to go beyond Europe. And we have several participants here today with us as well that are coming from other parts of the world. And is there a vision behind also in European Commission regarding this initiative of Bauhaus to be spread beyond Europe?
Yeah, if I may start maybe on this one, it is indeed something that was important also for the president from the beginning. This is not a Eurocentric project, which I mean, the name could sometimes give this impression as it's called New European Bauhaus, but there is a clear global dimension. This is, for example, why we have in the round table not only Shigeru Ban, who was mentioned already by John, but also a climate and social activist from India, for example, who is looking at this whole project with a completely other perspective. And it's very interesting to have her on board. one dedicated discussion on the global dimension and how we can support innovation in this area and field, especially also on the global level. So this is clearly one focus of the project. Of course, we are in the European Union, so this is where we start in a way. But this global dimension is there from the start, and this is also what we want to develop with the help of the different structures and people that we have in the project. So indeed, this is something that is true for the whole European Green Deal, for all the climate policy. We know very well that we cannot do it on our own, but at the same time, and this is also something that goes for the European Bauhaus, if we don't do it and if we don't go ahead, well, then we can also forget about the global dimension. So I would say that's a bit the two. We need both, and we need a balance of both. But as said, the global dimension is clearly part of the European Bauhaus.
And maybe I could add a few words to what Ruth has so rightly said already. From the point of view of the climate emergency, and we have only decades left, more or less, to avoid sliding into a hothouse Earth. From the point of view of climate challenge, it can only be won or lost or met at the global scale, of course. So Europe can lead the way with its cultural diversity, with its fantastic tradition in construction and urban and landscape. People I mentioned who have to be housed, accommodated in the next 50 years will in particular exist in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and so on. So if you can demonstrate that with organic materials you can provide even better accommodations with concrete and steel, this is shining a light on all continents. But let me emphasize that it goes also the other way around. In Japan, Shigeru, in India, everywhere, in Africa, you have fantastic traditions in architecture, which were more or less wiped out after the Second World War by the brutalistic way of building cities. We can learn so much from these cultures. So in a way, the new European Bauhaus will start a global dialogue about how to best build our world.
Thank you. Now, maybe kind of like a question that I'm sure you will say we cannot give you the answer to, but still, so what would you like to see that the timber construction sector does to build a village or a city out of wood in the next 10 or 15 years?
So maybe I start and Ruth has the final word. Actually, you have to build at all scales. And that is really the global challenge. Of course, like Gropius and his colleagues at the old Bauhaus did, they built the so-called master houses. You demonstrate how all the new ideas can be focused and combined in just one building. But then, of course, you have to build an entire quarter from timber. That is going to happen on the old airfield Tegel in Berlin now. You have to look at entire cities built with organic materials. And then, of course, how do you change the relationship between urban and rural spaces? So it's all about, how you accommodate people in space, billions of people in the end. So it is a new way of looking at the built environment at all scales, from the tiny house to the megalopolis.
Well, I don't have so much to add. Yeah, thank you. And not so much to add from my side. My first spontaneous reaction was also, do we really have to choose? Because it's also something that we look very carefully at, even in the project, because it's not only about the scale, so how big a project is, but it's also about where you built it. And for us, it's very important that this European Bauhaus does not become a kind of elitist project, or a project that is only about cities, and maybe then only about those cities who are already far in the green transformation, like, I don't know, Amsterdam or Copenhagen. But we would really like to also bring on board the rural areas that have different challenges, but also big challenges when it comes to the green transition and the Green Deal. And so that is why I would also very much argue, please do both. If I really had to choose, I would probably then say go for the village, because this is probably the area that has been more neglected in the last years. But yeah, let's try to have it all. Let's try to dream a bit.
Thank you very much. So for the end, I would like to give both of you the opportunity to give a message to us, to encourage us to be loud, and what you believe it's important we do, maybe if we define it in the time frame, in the next 6 months.
That's a difficult one. So again, I will jump the gun and go first. I mean, my message would be encourage yourself in a way. I have been on many events and congresses now, conferences where the timber industry was involved. And in general, they kept on complaining about the regulations and so on. And you don't need to complain anymore. Be proud of yourself, of what you can achieve. Be proactive and tell the world that you are the solution, that you are at least part of the solution.
Thank you. And Ruth?
Yeah, to continue in the same spirit, I would also say really participate and tell us. I mean, I know that this is not something that you have never been doing. I know that you have been talking to the European Commission and other political stakeholders for a very long time. I also don't say or promise that everything will be changing overnight. But indeed, as John has said, this European Bauhaus gives you a wonderful opportunity. The door is wide open. So we also now need you to make your voice heard, and to make this European Bauhaus at least a little, or maybe even a bit bigger stone to get this. Well, I'm now tempted to say revolution, which is not a word that is very much liked in the European Commission, but this transformation of the construction sector and the built environment a reality. So please participate now in the design phase of the European Bauhaus. Tell us what this European Bauhaus should be doing, what is needed for you, and then stay on board for the next steps, what we will be doing inside this program, what we will be doing as well in the broader sense when it comes to the Fit for 55 package and all the other initiatives, the forest strategy. I mean, there will be so many other political and legislative initiatives coming in the next months. So make your voice heard in a positive way, in a constructive way, that we can all move towards a better and a greener future.
Thank you very much to both of you for this morning session. It was a great pleasure to be with you, since you both gave us the invitation and encouragement. So don't be surprised, we will be very loud the next few months. So we will be knocking on your doors constantly, and please do open it to us, and we will demonstrate to you also in the next sessions today that there is a lot of innovative solutions and a lot of very ambitious projects things that we are able to do, and we would like to do more of them in the future. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to our further collaborations in the name of all the sector that is today joining us. Thank you.